James Nicholson's grandparents were Scottish and Irish immigrants who constantly struggled to stay afloat economically.
My grandfather suffered from the disease of alcoholism, and that, coupled with the Depression, really wiped both him and my father out of the farming business in Iowa. And it was then that we began moving around, living in these tenant houses on farms. They didn't have electricity or plumbing. The handicap that we had growing up was the uncertainty in our life because of my father's disease, the terrible disease of alcoholism. It kept us constantly poor and constantly off balance. Often food and clothing were issues.
In the face of these hardships, it was Jim's mother who held the family together.
She would continually try to keep our morale up, even though she had a terrible time keeping her own morale up. She always said, don't let this get you down. You're as good as anybody else. In the early years, we used to get the Christmas tree that they had at school. And when school would let out for the Christmas holidays, we would drag it home. One Christmas, we had nothing in the house to eat except dry bread. And my dad was home that day, and he was sober. And he and I walked 2 miles through about 10 inches of snow to a farmer's house to buy 2 dozen of eggs, which we bought on credit, and we brought them back and we made French toast. We actually had a happy Christmas because my dad was home and he was sober.
Starting as early as the 2nd grade, Jim worked, saving money and helping out the family, selling greeting cards, working in a filling station, and then in high school he got a job as a gandy dancer, repairing railway tracks.
I was 15 years old and I weighed 120 pounds. And I went out and I worked 19 hours that first day out raising track and putting rock under it. I didn't have any gloves that day, so I got big blisters on my hands, but I worked the rest of that summer on this gandy dancers gang.
Following his brother's footsteps, Jim got an appointment to West Point. Upon graduation, the conflict in Vietnam was beginning to enter the public awareness.
And then suddenly one week, a classmate of mine was pictured in Time magazine. He had been killed over there. So I began to realize that, this is what I had been trained for. I wanted to go where the action was, and I also wanted to go where I thought something important was going on. So I asked the Army if they'd change my orders, send me to Vietnam, and they obliged.
Out of the Army with a pregnant wife and a 10-month-old son, Jim and his family packed their belongings in a station wagon and headed for Denver, where he had been admitted to law school.
And I worked full-time and went to law school full-time.
Joining a Denver law firm, Jim made partner within 2 years, before moving on to establish his career in business and politics.
I think growing up the way I did and going through the adversities that I did, maybe more willing to take risks than some other people, because I realized that you can continually improve your conditions.
He had really a lot of typically American influences on his boyhood. I think it made him very determined. That was highly developed in him.
I think that it's important to try to determine what it is that you want to do or what you want to achieve, and then go for it with a gusto.